In this series, we'll be making a horror game from the ground up and teaching you everything along the way. From researching, theorizing, and prototyping, to main menus, UI, and sound. Join me and follow along to become the master game developer you want to be. Hello everybody and welcome to episode 4 of creating a horror game from scratch. Today we're going to be focused purely on the security system. A big screen that shows whatever the current camera is looking at, as well as the ability to toggle through those cameras and eventually right click or whatever button you set it as to cancel and no longer be controlling the cameras, and we can go back to moving around. Alright, let's jump right in today. So I'm not too worried about the camera placement at the moment. I'm more interested in getting them working. So we're not going to be too worried about the placement. What we do want to do is go up here to the top left in the little cube with a plus. We're going to click the drop down menu and we're going to go down to all classes. Under all classes, what you want to do is you want to scroll down until you see Scene Capture 2D. And you're going to drag that into our 3D world. And while I'm not too interested on the positioning, I do want it to be relatively security camera placed. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of angle it down now. And there we go. We got our first security camera. And we're going to hold Alt. We're going to click. And we're going to drag. And we're going to make a second security camera just like that. However, before we continue, let's go ahead and name these. We're going to go ahead and click on it over here on the right in the outliner. We're going to press F2 and we're going to type in security camera 1. And on the other one, we'll do security camera 2. So now press Control Space, open up your content browser, and within your blueprints folder, we are going to right click and we're going to create a new folder, and we're just going to call this one cameras because we're going to have a lot of files and we don't want it to get too spammy out here. In here, what we're going to do is we're going to right click, and under textures, we are actually going to get a render target. And we're going to call this cam1 underscore and then RT for render target. We're going to go ahead and duplicate that, and we're going to delete the one at the end first, and then we're going to make it cam2 instead. With those named, now what we can do is click on security camera 1 over here at the top right, and you'll see that there is now a texture target. What we want to do is set the texture target, since this is security camera 1, to camera 1 render target. Now do the same thing for the other camera. Security camera 2, texture target, camera 2. Awesome. Now what we're doing here is we're actually creating materials out of what these cameras are seeing, and you'll see why that's so vital here in just a moment. However, they're not quite materials yet, but you can tell by the little preview that they have that that is indeed our cameras. On the first one, so Cam1 RT, go ahead and right click it, and at the top hit Create Material, and you can leave the name the default because all it does is it takes camera 1, says render target underscore matte, which is perfect. And we're going to do the same thing with the second. So now we have 2 render targets, and we've created materials out of what those render targets are seeing, which are the cameras. It's a little complicated simply due that we're going through like 3 files to make it happen, but it's pretty much all we can do. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go into Shift 5, which is our modeling mode, and we're going to pop open the cube grid. On the power of 2, I'm going to leave it 5, and you'll see why here in just a moment. We want this to be rather large, okay? And what we're going to do to make this rather large, so we have a nice big texture resolution, is simple. We are going to do 16 across and 9 down, and I'll explain why in just a moment. However, some of you probably already understand what's happening. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And now we're going to go 9 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And we're going to build up 1. And there we go. Go ahead and hit complete. And make sure I wasn't clicking on anything. I wasn't. Always double check, by the way. You don't want to find out later that you accidentally had something selected and that this is now a part of whatever it is you had selected. Anyway, now what we're going to do is, just like the door, we're going to right click on the object in our outliner, and we're going to browse to the asset. We're going to click it and hit F2, and we're going to name this 01 underscore TV screen. Oh, wait, I actually need to 01 underscore TV screen underscore SM for static mesh. It's very easy to screw up your naming conventions. All right, now that we have that large thing, what we're going to do is we're actually going to, now we're going to scale it down. Normally you don't want to scale, but this is one of the rare occasions we're going to get a lot of benefit out of scaling. And what we want to do is scale this so it looks like it could actually fit in this room as a TV screen. So we're going to hit R, and actually we're not even going to hit R. I don't like scaling with this tool very often. We're just going to type it in under here under the transform. Let's just start with like 0.5. So you'll see that it only did it on the X. If you Control Z that, if yours only did it on the X as well, this little lock here will make it so it keeps the same, essentially, aspect ratio all the way around. So if you lock that and then put this at 0.5, it'll do it to all of them. See, much easier to use that way. Cool. Let's move this down, and as you can see, it's still rather large. It goes through the ceiling by a lot. So let's do 0.25. Let's take it by another half. And now we're looking a lot better. I think I'm going to keep it about this large. At least for now, it'll stay this large. So we're actually not going to use this specific one, but we know what to put it at, which is 0.25. That was the number we were looking for, and we can safely delete this now. So what we need to do now is go over to our blueprints again, and in cameras, now we're going to right click and we're going to create a new blueprint class, and specifically an actor. We're going to name this security screen underscore BP. Let's go ahead and open that up. And at the top left, we're going to add a static mesh. And we're going to change the name of it to TV screen. Nope, see, I got to get into the habit just as much as you guys. Underscore SM for static mesh. On the right hand side, we're going to go ahead and open the drop down menu by static mesh, and we're going to go ahead and type in 01 underscore TV screen, and there we go. We get this massive TV screen. And remember, we're going to scale this down to 0.25. Perfect. However, as you can see, it's pointing the wrong direction at the moment. So we're going to go ahead and make this -90 on the Y, and then we're going to take it, we're going to move it up on the X. So it's about centered with our anchor here. And then we're going to move it over so it's also about centered with our anchor. So if you're following along, the exact placement that I have it is -210 on the Y and 110 on the Z, which is green and blue respectively. So you can go ahead and compile and save that. And to kind of show you guys what we're doing and also make sure this is facing exactly the way we want it to face, on the right hand side under materials, if you drop down and you type in cam, you'll see that we have both cam 1 and cam 2 under materials. If we place cam 1 on it, you'll see that it's giving a crazy grid effect here for the material. So we actually need to go fix that. So we're going to compile and save. And in order to fix that, we're going to go back to the security office. And we're going to pull out the screen BP. Now with the screen BP selected, on the left-hand side, something I haven't taught you guys yet, but you're about to learn, is if you scroll down under the UVs section, there's project. Now, the good news is it's going to be very easy for us to do on this TV screen. Sometimes it's more difficult, and we'll get to that in a later video. But for now, under the projection type, just change this to box. And bam, look at that. We have this nice TV screen that is showing us the footage of currently that camera. So you'll see that the sides are also showing it, and that's something we can fix later, so I'm really not worried about it. We'll go ahead and just kind of place this mostly in the wall so we don't see the sides very much. Make sure it's all showing. Boom. Now, why did we do 16 by 9 earlier? Well, 16 by 9 is the standard resolution for video games and cameras and monitors and TVs nowadays. There are exceptions, but 16 by 9 is definitely the most prevalent, and the same with these cameras. So by doing the grid 16 by 9, we now maintain the aspect ratio that this camera is getting through its input, and we get a nice, clean, unstretched picture. However, now it's time to start adding in some of the functionality to this security system. What we're going to do is we're actually going to go back to the security screen BP, and on the top left-hand side, we're going to click Add, and we're going to add a camera. Now, this is actually going to be relatively important. The first thing you want to do is take camera and make sure it's not a child. See how if I hit this little arrow here, it makes camera go away and come back? And you can see that camera's name is to the right a little bit of where TV screen starts. It's because it's a child of TV screen. And if you look at the scale, it's at 4. Now, the reason that is because TV screen is down to 0.25 on the scale. And now, in order for camera to be its normal self, it has to be multiplied by 4. So we're going to take camera and we're going to make sure it is a child. So we want to attach it to the default scene root and not to the TV screen. This is why you don't want to use scaling normally, and we're only doing this because of the exception of it being so much easier than anything else we could do. So I'm going to go ahead and place my camera, I don't know, about right there is fine. However, we need to be able to see what that camera sees to set it exactly where we want it. So this is where having multiple monitors helps. But I am going to try to be doing it on one screen so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to click on the camera in the world, and we get this nice little view of what the camera sees. Something I wish would show up in the blueprint, and it might be able to show up in the blueprint. I just currently don't know how to get it to, so this is my workaround. And then we're going to slowly move in, and we're going to slowly move this camera until it is just perfectly on the left and right, touching the sides. So you see how where this camera is placed down here in the preview, each side is touching the side of the preview? That's perfect, because whenever it actually works, these tops and bottoms will also be touching the tops and bottoms. But for now in the preview, it's not showing that. But it will work, I promise. This is exactly where we want it to be. So I'm going to re-full screen this. We're going to compile and save. And now what we're going to do, we're going to go to the event graph, and we are going to delete all this shit. All right, so we need to go to the class settings, and we need to implement the interface that we added in the previous episode that I forgot to mention. So if yours isn't working and you didn't see the comment, make sure you add the interface to the door BP. Anyway, we're going to add, and what we're going to do is we're going to add the interactable interface. So interactable interface. We're going to compile and save. And now what we're going to do is we're going to type in event interacted. Bam. So now we have the thing that happens whenever we click on it. So what we want to do is we're going to right click and we're going to create a custom event. I got to turn my context sensitive on. Sorry, that was something I was doing earlier. And in the custom event, we are going to name it use. Very simple. And out of event interacted, we're just going to go ahead and call use. We're going to go ahead and just call this on, or comment it and say on interact, you do the use function, or actually let's be more specific, call the use function. There we go. So on interact, we're going to call the use function. What is use going to do? Well, use needs to know if we're already using it or if we need to begin using it. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a new variable, and we're going to call it in use. And we're going to pull that out, and we're going to get that. And we're going to check with a branch, so hold B and click. We're going to check and see if it's currently in use, because we're going to have different things happen depending on if it's in use. So we're going to create a new custom event, and we're going to call this begin use. So basically, if we're not using it, so in use, no, well, begin using it then. And for now, we'll go ahead and comment that and just call it check if in use and decide what to do. Perfect. So what are we going to do with begin use? Well, the first thing we're going to need is we're going to need to get player controller. So the reason we need to get the player controller is because we're actually going to try to access the player's camera in order to do a nice little animation transition into the security footage. So in order to do that, we're going to get the player controller, and out of that, we're going to type in set view target with blend. So out of new view target, we're going to pull this out, and we're going to type in self, because we have a camera. I know it seems counterintuitive. It almost seems like you'd want to put the camera as the new view target. It doesn't work like that. I don't know what to tell you. It don't work like that. On the blend time, it's basically going to be how long do you want to make between the camera you're at and the new camera. So we're going to make it about 1 second, and we'll change it if we need to. For now, we're going to comment this and just say begin using the security station by transitioning. Oh no. Transitioning the camera. If my spelling's wrong, you know what? I don't care. We're going to go ahead and compile and save this, and we're going to test it. So go back over to your game. Press Shift 1 to get rid of the modeling thing. And as you can see, by the way, at Shift 1, this is already much closer to the aspect ratio people will be using, which, for the record, this viewport by default is not the aspect ratio of the game. It's very frustrating. I wish it was. It is not. However, for now, let's go ahead and hit play. If you get this error, the BP rifle, this is what we're going to do. We're going to hit cancel, and we're going to fix that really quick. If you click the BP rifle, oh, it opened it. Well, opening it's fine too, whatever. Just come over here. Like if you zoom out, you can see the two big red errors. Just come over here, grab all three of these, hit delete, compile and save, and the BP rifle can go do whatever it does. I don't care about it anymore. So now hit play, and we won't have that error anymore. So last time we made the door, but now we want to test this. So I'll show you what it does by standing way to the side. If I stand way to the side and I left click to use the screen, you'll see it blend to the new camera that we made. Boom. So don't worry, this is really blurry, but we're going to fix it. I promise. We're not going to keep it blurry like that. It's just a nice transition over. It makes the game look so polished and nice. However, we did forget a step here. Well, I didn't forget it. I just chose not to do it yet because I wanted to do testing. Is right now, the player can still move and look around even though we've blended them to a new camera. So what we're going to do to keep things nice and fresh, even though we already have one, is we're going to get another get player controller so that we have two references to it. And out of this, we are going to set ignore move input. Wait, reset. No. If you get reset, that's the wrong one. We want to set ignore move input. So we are going to ignore it. So we need to check the Boolean to true. And then we need to pull out and get set ignore look input. So basically what we're doing is whenever we activate this, we are now messing with the security thing. So we don't want the player moving and looking around because that just wouldn't make sense. It'd be very confusing and feel glitchy because, well, it basically would be a glitch. So now when they use it, they can't move. And we'll blend the camera over. Currently, we have a blend time of 1 second. So we're going to add a delay after, and we're going to set that delay to 1 second. Because after the transition, we want something to happen, but we don't want it to happen while the blend is happening. Now, it might seem confusing. We're going to blend to another target. And it's eventually going to be a variable, but for now, don't worry about it. Again, we need the player controller. However, the new view target is going to be a camera. Actually, we can't skip the making it a variable. We have to make it a variable immediately. So what we need to do is on the left-hand side here, we need to create a new variable, and we're going to call it security cameras, not camera, cameras. Because what we want to do is we want to, in the search, type in 2D, and then what are they called? I forget off the top of my head. Yeah, scene capture 2D. And you can just make that an object reference. And once you've done that, right click the little icon next to scene capture, and it'll turn into a grid. Basically, what that means is we've made an array. If we click the eyeball, we'll be able to access that from the viewport, and you'll see why that's important right now. So make sure it's an array, make sure the eyeball is open, compile, save, head back to the viewport. With the security or the TV selected on the right-hand side, now you'll see we have security cameras and 0 array elements. Right now we have 2 cameras, so hit the plus twice, so that way we have 2 spots in our array. Click the eyedropper tool, click on security camera 1, click the other eyedropper tool, and press security camera 2. Go ahead and save, and go back into the security screen BP. So now what we need to do is we actually need to get another variable. We need to get current security camera. However, this is just going to be an integer, and it's not going to be an array. So make sure it's just the dot, not the grid, just the dot and an integer. And we're going to compile and save. And the reason we need the current security camera is because this is going to point in the list what camera we're using. So we're going to pull the security camera onto our grid, and we're going to get the security cameras. We're probably going to have to make some space here. Out of security cameras, we are going to type in get, and then you'll see a bunch of different options. We want get a copy. And the copy we want, if we get the current security camera, you'll see that it fits perfectly into the integer little thing here. So what's happening? This is our list of cameras. This is the address of the current camera. So in security cameras, element 0, so just in case you're new and you don't know, in coding and arrays and games, the first element in any list is actually the 0 position, not the 1 position. So the current security camera is 0 because we haven't done anything yet. So what it's going to do is it's going to say get 0 of this list of security cameras and make it the new view target. However, in this case, we actually want the blend time to be 0. Because when we switch between each security camera, we don't want it to move our camera. We just want it to show up just like that. So we're going to hit compile and we're going to hit save. Now this isn't going to have full functionality yet. We're just testing. So let's go back to the viewport, hit play, and we'll move over to our security camera. And if it works, it will do the blend to the preview camera and then go to the actual camera. Let's see. Perfect. Look at that. So that is working just the way we want it to. So now that that is all set up, the one last thing we need to do on begin use is we need to set in use to true, because it is officially being used. Compile and save. We might have to move this later, by the way, because if there's any delay at all between ignoring this stuff, which it might not, there might not be any delay, but just in case there is, and we start spamming left click, in fact, I'll show you because I think it'd be interesting to show you. It might screw everything up. No, it doesn't. Interesting. Okay, whatever. Good enough. It didn't screw anything up, so I'm not going to complain. All right. So now we have begin use there. It gets us to the security camera. It looks nice. We're good to go. However, what happens whenever we are using it and we left click again? Well, we want that to be, oh, we got to make the event first. Right click, custom event, change camera. So now what's going to happen is whenever we are already using it, we want it to change camera. Because we're already using it, so we don't need to begin use. We're just going to change the camera instead. So we need to add it up here to the use, connected to true. And then out of change camera, this is pretty simple actually. What we need to do is get the current security camera. So get it. Out of the current security camera, type add. And we're going to press 1. So we're going to take the current security camera, we're going to add 1 to it, and then we're going to set current security camera to the whatever this equals. So the current security camera, add 1 and set that to the current security camera. And guess what we're going to do? Set view target with blend again. We are going to need the player controller as the target. And the new view target, well, we need to get our security cameras. We need to pull out of that and hit get a copy. And the address will, of course, be the current security camera, now that we've set it to +1. And bam. However, what happens if this just keeps adding and there's not more cameras? You see how that could be an issue? Well, let's go find out. I actually don't know. Let's break some stuff. So it goes to the first camera. We click. Goes to the second camera. As you can see, I forgot to set it to 0. So we're about to see what happens if I click again. Whoa, it's just doing stuff. What if I click again? Nothing. It's broken. I don't know where that went. I don't know what that next camera was. I don't know what that was. Anyway, sorry. I just wanted to see what would happen. Take all this and move it all the way down here. And on the blend time, set this to 0. So that way it's instant. Okay, so we misdid some logic, which is perfect. I want to make mistakes because I want to see you guys, show you guys that it's fucking normal and you shouldn't feel bad if you don't know how to do something or make a mistake. Anyway, okay. So the error with this logic, we're actually going to need a Boolean or a branch. So hold B and click. And then what we're going to do is we're going to click the plus to add a new variable. And the new variable is going to be called max cameras. We'll just leave that as an integer as well, and we're going to compile and save so we have access to that new variable. So make sure it's selected, and on the right hand side you'll see max cameras. We currently have a max of 2 cameras. However, we're dealing with a list or an array, so we have to subtract 1 from that because, as I said previously, the default position is 0, not 1. So we actually only have 1. We have 2 cameras. We subtract 1 because lists start at 0. All right, I hope everyone's with me on this. Okay, so max cameras is 1. So what we need to do is we need to take max cameras, we need to get that, and we need to get equal, pull out of it and type in equal, and then you'll grab the one that says equal. So does max cameras equal, and then we need to get another copy of current security camera. So basically, are these the same number? Because if they are, so if true, we need to get current security camera and hit set. So if true, set current security camera to 0 and then move forward. If false, we are going to add 1 instead and then move forward. So I just want to like, actually, you know what, make this look nice. We're going to put a little pin there, and then fun fact, you can put both of these into this pin and then pull that pin out. Oh, something weird happened there. And then pull this pin out, and then look at that. Look at that nice little logic we got going on there. We can pull this back a little. All right. Let me go over this one more time. Is current security camera the same as max cameras? If yes, set it back to 0 because we're starting over and go forward. Is it not? Okay, then add 1 to it and then go forward. So there we go. So now it'll just cycle between the list that we have. And as we add cameras, we need to remember to come back and update these variables, which we will. It's really not that big a deal. So we're going to call this change cameras. And we're going to take this, move it down, make it a little bit bigger so they've got plenty of room to breathe in here. Compile and save. And now I'm pretty sure no matter what we do, it'll work. So we go to the screen, we click, goes to the first camera, we click, goes to the second camera, and if it works, we'll go back to the first. And look at that. So now we have access to both the security cameras we have. However, now we have an issue. We're stuck. We can't leave. So we're going to add a way to leave the security screen. And when we leave the security screen, we're actually going to update this material to be the last camera we used. So what we need to do is go back to our security. Actually, don't go back to the BP yet. Just go to edit and go to project settings. And on the left-hand side, what we're going to do is we're going to click on input. Under action mappings, so right here, make sure you can just pop it open. You'll probably only have jump and primary action. That's fine. Go ahead and click. And now we're going to type in cancel. So, well, that's what I'm going to call it. You can call it whatever you want. I recommend using cancel, but it don't matter. Then I'm going to click on this little keyboard here, and I'm going to right click. So that way it sets up as right mouse button. If you don't want it to be our right mouse button, it doesn't have to be, but that's what we're going to be using here on the tutorial. Okay. So now we need to check and see what happens whenever they right click. Well, in order to start listening for the right click, we actually need to go back to the viewport really quick. Well, you don't have to go to the viewport. It just feels right to do it. And at the top left here, we're going to add, and we're going to type in box for a box collision. We're going to go ahead and set all of the box extents to 200. Again, a couple things to check here. Make sure box is not a child of either camera or TV screen. Make sure it's its own thing and don't scale it up. Just go to box extent and then type in 200 on all of them and save. The reason we need this box is actually because we can't listen for inputs unless we enable inputs. And with our interact system, we don't need the box collision, which is why I did it in this weird order, but we're fine. Just roll with me. So we're going to right click on box and we're going to add event on component begin overlap. If it goes to the bottom like mine did, it's fine. That'll work perfectly fine. Out of other actor, we are going to cast to the first person BP, or if you are on the third person one, you can use that as well. And we are going to then pull out of BP first person character, and we're going to promote it to a variable. On the left hand side, you'll see that its default name is really long and stupid. I like to just name this the PlayerRef because that's literally what it is. And my references, I like to always put those as the first variable besides components. So now that we've set up our variable, Then what we're going to do is out of the set PlayerRef, the little blue dot here, we are going to type in enable input. Actually, never mind. If you pull out of that, it'll do this, which is fine. Just make sure you unclick this so that way target is self. And then out of the player controller, we're going to get player controller like that. Perfect. So go ahead and make a comment and just say get PlayerRef. Right click on box one more time. We're going to add event. We're going to end overlap this time. Again, we're going to make sure it is the first person character by casting to the first person BP. And now what we're going to do is we're going to disable the input of the get player controller like this. So now we can listen for the right click. Get PlayerRef and disable input. There we go. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to listen for it. But now we can. Great. So now that we can actually listen for the right click, scroll all the way down here, right click, and type in event cancel. So now we have this input action called cancel. So what we're gonna do is, I think we can just do it straight out of this. Normally I wouldn't, so actually I'm not going to. We're gonna use good practices here on the tutorial. Go ahead and right click and type in custom event, and we're gonna type in stop using. So in order to stop using the terminal, we need to go back to our character's camera. So we're going to go ahead and just get the player controller and the set view target with blend and copy that. And we're going to come back down. We're going to paste it. Or you can just pull it out and type it in too. Both work. It's not a big deal. However you want to go about it. And this time, believe it or not, get player controller is going to be both the target and the new target with a blend time of 0. Then what we're going to do is pull out of this, and we're going to type in set ignore look input. We are going to set that to not true, so unchecked, and set ignore move input. We're also going to make that sure that's unchecked. So we'll go ahead and make a comment that says leave terminal. And whenever we press our right click, we are going to stop using. And we'll just say right click, listen on that. We're going to compile and save. Oh, we need to plug in the player controller into these. So get player controller. And if you just kind of put it down at the bottom here, you can put it into both and then add an extra pin here, bring it down, and now it's nice and fresh looking like that. Cool. So now we should be able to do everything. Click, transitions, goes to both cameras, right click, and we are ourself again. As you can see, we're not completely ourself though. We're missing our arms. Oh, they're up there, weirdly enough. One moment, please. Okay, sorry, I had to debug that. I actually had no clue what was going on. So to fix this, instead of using the player controller on the new view target, make sure the PlayerRef is the new view target, which is a variable we created earlier. So just go ahead and pull that out, press get, and plug that into new view target. During the debug, however, if we scroll up here, you'll see that on set ignore look input, I actually never checked this. I have now. So if you've been screaming at your screen, you can stop now. It is now checked. So now if we go and we test our system, we'll go ahead and click, and then we right click, and we are back to where we're supposed to be. Now, one last thing. Let's update the actual screen to show the current camera we're on. It's easy enough. Go to the security screen BP. This is actually super easy. What we're going to do is we're just going to add it to the stop using because I don't think we're going to need it anywhere else. So for now, I'm just going to leave it here. At the end here, after we turn off the ignore inputs and stuff, just drag down the TV screen SM. And what we're going to do is we are going to drag out, and type in set material. And what we're going to do is we are actually going to create one more array here. So we're going to add another variable, and we're going to call it materials. And on the search, just type in material. And then down here, you'll see one is named just material. Make that an object reference. And like we did with the security cameras, right-click the icon to turn it into an array. We're going to compile and save. Now, on the right-hand side here, we have 2 cameras, so we're going to add 2 elements. The first one is going to be the Cam1 RT map. The second one is going to be the Cam2 RT map. So drag materials out. We're going to get a copy. And then we already know how to get the current security camera. We have a variable set for it. So get that, plug it in, and then we can plug this into the material. We're going to hit compile and save like that. So now, as you know, by default, it shows camera 1. So it's the one with the door. Like if I open the door, for example, you'll see it opening right there. So now we can see it because the door is open. So I'll click it. We'll go to camera 2, and then I'll right-click to get out of it and check it. It updated it, and now it's the last one we looked at. Why is Visual Studio? Oh, God. Visual Studio, no! What are you doing? And that's all for this episode, guys. We went over a lot of code and logic. If you're confused, if yours isn't working, let me know in the comments below, but please leave a description of what's happening so that way I can actually help you, because if you just say it's not working, unfortunately I can't really work with that as there's so many components and things going on. So let me know where yours isn't working and I'll do my best to help out. But yeah, if you guys like this series, please like, comment, subscribe, and please support me on Patreon so I can keep doing this stuff for free. I'll see you guys in the next episode.